From 1947 until 1952, the Hooker Chemical Company used the Love Canal section of Niagara Falls as a dumping site for toxic waste.
President Carter declared a state of emergency today in the Love Canal area of New York's Niagara Falls, where toxic chemicals were discovered oozing from the ground.
That discovery in a Niagara Falls neighborhood triggered an environmental battle that played out on national television and became one of the most iconic in U.S. history. After the federal government finally evacuated hundreds of families, new laws were introduced to prevent future love canals.
Occidental Chemical Company agreed to pay $129 million.
My 3 kids were born with birth defects. My wife's had cancer.
In the spring of 1978, a Niagara Falls housewife read a newspaper story about her neighborhood, known as Love Canal.
It described 20,000 tons of chemicals buried 3 blocks from my home, that these were very toxic chemicals. And I was just in shock.
The chemicals had been dumped in an old canal by the Hooker Chemical Company in the 1940s and early 1950s, and then buried. Now, they were leaking into some of the homes closest to the canal.
For several years, chemicals have been seeping into the basements of a number of houses, including this one. The evidence is always there.
There was a report that talked about the different chemicals getting into people's homes, getting into their gardens, their backyards.
The people that were living there were smelling these odors in their basements. Many of the children claimed that they had skin rashes. And before you know it, there was a concern.
There have been instances of birth defects and miscarriages among neighborhood families.
The state had been testing the neighborhood's air, soil, and groundwater and made an announcement for the homes closest to the canal.
The New York State Health Department recommended that pregnant women and children under the age of 2 immediately move out of the area.
How many chemicals have been identified as being underground here?
So far, we know of 88 specific chemicals that have been identified.
And of those 88, how many are suspected of causing cancer?
I think the number is 11.
You could see the fear on some of their faces today as men, women, and children gathered for blood tests to determine whether those here have developed abnormalities.
I am really, really afraid. We have decided we're going to get out one way or another. But right now, you know, you just can't jump, and where are we going to go?
We were a working class community. We didn't have money to just up and move and abandon our house.
Over the next 2 years, some of the remaining homeowners continued to battle for relocation, saying living near the polluted canal was putting their family's health at risk.
I lost a baby before it was even born. My next door neighbor had a stillborn. Her son is sick. Her son is sick. How many more kids have to be sick?
Today, the Environmental Protection Agency announced...
But things changed in the spring of 1980. The EPA had conducted a preliminary study that indicated that residents may have increased chromosomal abnormalities. But before the agency could confirm the findings or inform the residents, the study was leaked.
EPA was in a panic because they knew that this awful chromosome study was going to hit the newspapers. So they had an emergency team rush out to Niagara Falls to talk to these people.